Heartland of America and the gateway to the West. I'm George Noory, and welcome to Coast AM. Here's what's happening. Let's talk a little bit, if we can, about Yellowstone. This thing blows up every 640,000 years. It's a caldera, which is almost like an inverted volcano. I've been told that there's enough ash in that area that if it blows, you could have 3 to 6 feet of ash throughout most of the United States.
Yeah, and that's not the only problem with Yellowstone. It's got a very high glass content to its lava. They found that last time that Yellowstone erupted, animals died on the other side of the planet because what happens is these little tiny fine microscopic particles of glass that look like snowflakes get caught in the lungs, and your lungs think it's a bacteria, so they produce phlegm, and what happens is it causes a pneumonia-like situation.
What are the possibilities that this thing could happen in the next 20 or 50 years?
There's been all kind of swarms of earthquakes. So the swarms seem to pick up towards like when the Mayan calendar says, December 21st. So it seems like whenever we're at that part of space around the sun, we're close to something that's affecting it.
Hello. How's it going? Hi. Well, see you later.
Yellowstone National Park. I don't know why they call it a park. It's a park's normally like a square with like grass, play equipment. This is different. What do you think came first? Jellystone National Park or Yellowstone National Park? Which came first, Yogi Bear or humans? Have bears been along before humans in the evolutionary degree? These are all fascinating questions.
This here is a bison, buffalo's ugly cousin. This is a bison galloping, and this is a bison drinking. These majestic creatures once roamed Yellowstone hoof loose and fancy free, but then came President Theodore Roosevelt and the United States Army. Not being content with wiping out Indians, the hunting safari switched their aim to antelope, bald eagles, baseball, American flags, apple pies, and were preparing to move in on the Yellowstone bison. The bison, however, were a clever collective and caught wind of Roosevelt's plan, and in a preemptive strike, the furry animals penetrated the cavalry's camp in the quarter of the night and abducted the president. The soldiers were furious when they woke up Teddy-less the following morning. They rode straight into the heart of Yellowstone, only to be confronted by a horrendous sight. The bison, in a fury of fur, humps and horns, had transformed President Roosevelt into a bison. And, after an impromptu election, Theodore Roosevelt was elected President of the United Herd of Bison by a landslide majority. An embarrassing battle then ensued where the President coordinated a defensive attack, using his knowledge of the Army's maneuvers against them. The soldiers sheepishly retreated back to the park's outskirts, full of confusion and fear. The president's a bison, man! A frickin' bison! The rattled men pulled themselves together. They knew Roosevelt and the bison would soon be back to finish them off. The soldiers drew up a plan, full of elaborate booby traps to foil the bison. To cut a long, slapstick routine short, the army won and amputated the bison bits from Roosevelt, with the exception of some fur here and there, which led to the nickname Teddy Bear, which in turn made creepy Raggedy Ann dolls obsolete. Martial law was then imposed on Yellowstone National Park, but the bison still remain, as you can see here, plodding along patiently, waiting for another US president to wander into their realm. Let's travel now to the experience of a lifetime that only this place, this extraordinary place, can offer. Deep in the heart of Yellowstone beats a truly breathtaking monument to nature and mankind's hopes and dreams. An ice cream shop.
So the smoke is coming up here because this part of America is very close to hell. Or, as we found out recently, very close to the town of Perfect. In fact, underneath there. Would be Purgatory, and then like the 7 stages of hell, I believe. If you listen to Dante, I think it was Dante. Purgatory, Oblivion, something like that. But anyway, the fires of hell are closer than you think. So if you ever want to go to the town of Perfect, come here to Yellowstone National Park and dive in one of these sinkholes. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Speaking of yellow cars, I've yet to see one Yellowstone in Yellowstone National Park. Weird. Something else to think about. Doesn't smell too bad actually. I thought hell would smell worse. Although, look at the town of Perfect, for example, again. That smelled great. A lot of camper vans in this national park. A lot of camper vans.
Oh no. Oh no. The Mall of Perfect. Again. And this time without the blue car. I'm trapped here. Remember when I said I wanted to stay in perfect.
Between you and me, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to just stay here.
Well, be careful what you wish for, or your chucks will subconsciously trip down a sinkhole. It's the end. I don't know what else to say. Except, thanks for coming along with me. All the places we went to. Hill Valley, California. How many people can say they've been there? And Ravenswood, West Virginia. Goodbye.
This is where we say goodbye. In Purgatory, they show you your hometown. That's mine, Sydney, Australia. And even though it's not real, I'd rather be living in a mirror than here, stuck in oblivion. So I'm gonna go scale that fence now. If you're ever in Yellowstone National Park, look out for a blue car. I parked it near the Old Faithful Geyser. The Old Faithful Geyser! That's it! Ha! Come on!
I walked back to the Mall of Perfect and regrouped in a little coffee shop they had there. And over an iced mocha, I formulated a plan. This represents Lake Perfect. And this, Yellowstone National Park's Old Faithful Geyser. Now watch what happens when a straw is involved.
Still don't get it? I'll show you.
The prima donna geyser known as Old Faithful erupts every 65 minutes, drawing its moisture from Lake Perfect deep down below, evaporating much of the lake up. Occasionally fish, octopuses and walruses are vapored up to a new life in Yellowstone. Some volcanologists even go so far as to theorize that walruses create a static rotating warp shell in Lake Perfect, causing the very eruption of Old Faithful itself. But even I think that's a little far-fetched. So, like this mermaid, the best move we can make in life is to escape Starbucks imprisonment and head for open water. Wait a minute, even though we're in a hurry, let me quickly tell you the history of Perfect USA. This is a statue of Perfect's founder, Sheridan Hallmark. Well, half of him. Sheridan was head over heels in love with Kelly Middlestreet, back when he had heels. He would gaze up at her strolling high heels past his basement studio at 2 to 9 every workday. Until one day he finally felt like a heel just staring, so he went topside to buy some curtains. But up on the sidewalk, he was stopped in his tracks by a beautiful woman who wore familiar high heels. As Sheridan gazed at her feet from a refreshingly new angle, she surprisingly fixed her sights on the top of his head. Turned out every day at 2 to 9, Kelly Middlestreet would peer down at Sheridan's head of hair underground. They quickly became fast friends. She loved Sheridan's whimsical photography, marveling at the perfect world he created in the black and white shadow and light, remarking that she wished such an idyllic, symmetrical utopia really existed as the photos optimistically contrasted the sights of 1930s New York. Times were tough in Times Square as the Great Depression pressed greatly. From the basement studio, they would watch people's feet go through the tough times as well. From leather shoes to socks, from bare feet to Crocs. Being an assistant secretary and a surreal photographer, it wasn't long at all before Kelly and Sheridan were falling behind the rent. So one night, Kelly brought home an answer to their problems, a brochure titled Hoover City Wants You. According to the article, all of the homeless people across the country were rallying together to settle a town that they would call Hoover City. The top homeless scientist had discovered tears in the space-time continuum, all converging on fertile green countryside. The best line of the article was the last. Photographer needed to document and assistant secretary needed to document photographers. They applied to be a part of the Hoover City settlement and were approved in no time at all. But before they had a chance to pack, Kelly was tragically run over in the middle of the street by an off-duty milkman. As she lay there dying, she held up the Hoover City pamphlet, telling Sheridan to look for her there. Even though devastated, Sheridan joined the wagon train and he and the hobos travelled through the dimensional tear. Waiting for them on the other side were rush rolling hills, fertile ground and a perfect settlement. And also waiting in the new world was Kelly Middle Street. Sheridan was happy to have her back, even though they both silently knew they must be in a level of the afterlife. The settlers created the town of Perfect as their vision of heaven, with also the mindset of being a safe haven for other travelling souls lost on the path to heaven or hell. Sheridan became the town's first mayor and opened his own greeting card store with rows full of his whimsical photos. Alright, enough history lesson, time to get out of this hellhole.
That's Old Faithful over there. I think it was a motion picture about a dog who had to get put down at the end. That was called Old Yellowstone. See how I turned that around and made it make sense? There's only so many minutes you can stare at landlocked clouds, and I think I've reached my limit. Yeah. Later on I found out something shocking about Perfect USA. Turns out I could have just climbed up this spiral staircase here to the Yellowstone gift shop. Or pushed the elevator up button and gone up to the Yellowstone pub. Oh well, it's not how you get up, it's the fact that you are up, I think.